I'm just going to show you how to get started with settings really quick. I'm going to show you a couple of quick things that I like to set up before I get started working. So before you can change any settings, you're going to need to actually have a canvas to work on. So I'm just going to click this little plus in the top right corner of the screen. And so you'll see I have probably a lot more options here than you do because I've made a lot of custom ones. For this particular thing, when I'm doing thumbnails, I'm just going to click the screen size option at the top, but when we go to create a project, I'll have a better idea of what size of canvas I want or what shape. So we'll come back and probably create a custom one there. But for now, I'm just going to tap this very top option that says screen size, and it will take me right into the canvas. So after you've created a canvas, it will just take you right into here. And you can see there's this top bar along the top of the screen with all of the tools that you're going to want to use. And to get into settings and just set things up how I like them, you're going to click on this little wrench icon towards the top left. And then, so I like having this light interface turned on. And then personally, I like to have the brush cursor, which just means as you draw, you're going to see this shape of the brush as you go. If you have that off, you can see, you don't see that shape, you just see the mark that you're making. I like it on, you can turn it off if you want to. And then down at the very bottom of this menu, there's this advanced gesture controls section. I like to have gestures only turned on for touch, which just means that if I slide my finger along the screen, it won't draw, only the Apple Pencil will draw. So if you don't have an Apple Pencil, obviously that's not an option, but this just means I can move the canvas with my fingers, I can undo, I can redo all of those things, but I don't have to worry about doing those on accident if I'm not using, or I don't have to worry about drawing on accident if I'm only using the pencil. And then down here, I like to just tap on touch hold, which turns on my quick menu. You can choose how you want to invoke that. I like to do it through touch hold. I find that touch, it pops up a lot when I don't want it to. So the touch hold is a nice way of just making sure that it only shows up when I actually want to see it. But I mean, you can do this how you want. There's a couple different options. This is how I have it set up. And then let me show you what that quick menu is really quickly. And you can just tap anywhere outside of those controls to dismiss that, and then anywhere outside of that settings menu to dismiss that one. So when you just tap on the screen and hold your finger, then you'll get this menu that shows up. And you can customize this to whatever you want. This is what I have it set up as. I think by default it's probably something a little different. But basically how you use that is you tap and hold and then slide up to the option you want to use, or over or down, I guess. But if you want to change what those things are, you tap and hold and then lift your finger and then tap and hold again on the option you want to change, and you can see there's a whole lot of different options for what you can do there. You can, there's different actions, or you can choose a specific brush that you want it to switch to. Yeah, so this can be super helpful. It can help you do a lot of things a lot more quickly. But there are just a couple more things that I'm going to show you in the iPad settings app that you have to go. And you have to scroll all the way down to the bottom, almost, depending on how many apps you have installed. But there should be a Procreate section in this left bar, so you tap on that, and then it will take you into these Procreate settings. The only things I would recommend changing are if you want a higher quality time-lapse video, you can set that to 4K if you have a new enough iPad, or you can just set it to a slightly higher quality than what you get by default. So for this one, I'm going to do 4K, and then I like to make sure Simplified Undos is turned off. I believe that's on by default, but just tap it once to turn that off. That just means some of the more complicated things you do in Procreate, if you have that turned on, undoing will undo a lot of steps all at once. I like to have more fine-grained control over that, so I leave it off. That's all I would get set up, and then we're ready to get started drawing. You'll notice you have this top bar. This is where most of your tools are, so if you tap Gallery, that's going to take you back out to all of your drawings. You just tap on that canvas again to get back in. We'll get into these other ones on the top left more a little later, but for now they're not too important. And then over here on the top right are probably your most important tools. You've got your brush menu. You can choose what you're drawing with. So I'm going to go in and choose, I like to use a slightly bigger pencil for sketching. I have all of my brushes, like the ones that I like, in a little favorites menu here. You're going to find the default pencils in this sketching section, and the HB pencil is what I'm going to be using. And then you have, you have your smudge menu and your eraser menu, and all of these have the same brushes, so you can smudge with the same brush, you can erase with the same brush if you want to. Yeah, I'll show you, as I use those, I think you'll get the feel for it a little bit better. And then there's this layers menu, basically just lets you draw things on top of other things without ruining what you've already drawn. So, and you click the little plus to create a new layer. We'll get into that more, definitely. But for now, I just want to tap on this layer, rename it, and say this is thumbnails, and press enter. And so now I have a thumbnails layer that I'm going to be sketching on. And then just the last thing is I'm on this weird peach color, so I want to just sketch in black probably. And you can just drag down to the bottom to get a black, and then tap again to dismiss your colors. And I think that's pretty much the basics up there. I guess the other thing I should point out really quickly is that over here you have your brush size slider is the top one. So you can change how big the brush is. This is, well, this is how big it starts, and then if you put it down, you can make it a lot smaller. And then brush opacity is the other slider down below here. So it's a little hard to tell. I'm pushing hard and it's just less opaque. But again, we'll get into that stuff more. Don't worry about the square for now. I'm sure I'll use it later. And then you have little buttons for undo and redo down here. I don't ever use those because you can just tap with 2 fingers to undo and tap with 3 fingers to redo, and it's much, much, much faster.